everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sex, Drugs, and Opera, coming at you today in video, but also this will be available as a normal podcast for those of you listening.
Seriously, when is the last time that we did a video podcast? I can't even remember.
I mean, we've done some live streams, but a video podcast must have been a year or two ago.
At least,
Yeah.
Wasn't it music, like Future of Music or something like that?
I think it was the origins of music.
Origins of Music.
Yeah, it's
right.
been a while, but
Fucking nuts. I'm happy to see you guys. I hope you're happy to see us.
live in person.
I can see ya.
For those of you that haven't been following our stuff in order, the last episode we did was about quitting opera, which is a super interesting discussion because a lot of people, they feel like they can't leave opera. Once you've studied it, once you've gotten a degree in it, once all of your skills have been developed in opera, it's a tough industry to feel like you leave. It can leave you feeling a bit unprepared.
Yeah, I mean, when we study this, you study something that is on the outside not applicable to any. I mean, we talked about in the last podcast how it actually is applicable to other things.
Yeah, there's soft skills, but it's a lot of intangible stuff.
Yeah.
And when you hit the job trail in a world that's looking for certificates and degrees and tangible skills, it can be a tough transition to make. And so we fleshed that out pretty good on the last episode, but
then
we felt like there was more to say.
Well, the thing is, you and I got talking. What is there a harder job to leave? What would be even harder to leave? And of course, being Jared and Mike, porn star came up.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's clearly, it's like all the things that make opera hard to leave, except magnified by a million.
Yeah, right. And so let's take a look at that, right? And so we're getting ready here to meet with Nikki Rhodes today to talk about her experiences in the adult film industry and then also leaving that and transitioning to a more traditional lifestyle.
That's right, because she quit the grind.
Yep.
She's not doing it anymore. And what's that like? I mean, come on, seriously. What must have? I am so excited to talk to her, dude. I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, well, I'm
I'm
excited
nervous,
because
dude.
I think there's a lot of similarities we'll find. I think actually,
absolutely.
When you get past the difference of the industries, I think you will actually find, because it's kind of a hilarious thing to compare opera to the adult film industry, right? But at the end of the day, I think we'll find that a lot of the issues, contract negotiations, working with partners, networking,
Definitely.
leaving. What skills do you have?
How does your throat feel the next day?
Exactly.
You know, I mean,
Exactly.
There's
I think
lots of stuff.
I think we're gonna find some stuff. So we're waiting for her to call. We're gonna do this podcast over Zoom. So for those of you listening, we're gonna do our best to keep it in a way that you could listen to. But also for those of you watching on YouTube or wherever else that you see this, then you're gonna be seeing basically footage from our Zoom call that we're gonna do.
Because she was eager to come on the podcast. It was really awesome. But she wasn't fly out to Germany eager.
No.
I mean, that was not on the table.
So we really wanted to accommodate her. So it's midday for her, but it'll be quite late for us. So we're a bit tired here. But we got some energy here.
We had to look. This is one of the most special podcasts we've ever done. So I wanted to get a nice special beer. And I don't know if you can zoom in on that, Jared.
Man.
But we got a big old fucking Belgian beer. And you said on not the last podcast, but the podcast before, it always makes it more special whenever it's wrapped up in paper.
I mean,
it's like a present.
You wrap it in the paper, and then you got it in this great penny catcher here.
Oh my God. My father had the biggest fucking tin of pennies.
Yeah.
I used to just go and lift the pennies up with my hands and let them fall through.
Like
I could
Scrooge
feel.
McDuck. Yeah,
Oh
man.
my God, yes.
All the germs, all the dirt from years of people's fingers.
Gorsendonk.
Beer is a big part of our podcast, and here in Germany, it's easy to find. There's a great place that does international beer, and so we thought a special occasion, let's splurge. Also, thanks to Robbie and Isaiah for sponsoring this beer today for our podcast. If you want to see our secret sponsor content, you can also always follow us on Patreon, or if you want to buy us a beer, go to our donate tab on our website, and you can buy us a beer and get a call out. Okay, Mike's popping
What if
corks
this
here.
goes all over the equipment and shit, dude?
I mean, the expensive stuff's over there, so the microphones
do
are
it
fine.
Straight up in the air. Oh, look at that smoke.
Yeah. Nice.
Yes.
Nice. Classy. So we're going to pour some beers here. We're going to get ready, and we're going to have a good conversation.
I can't fucking wait.
Yeah, who knows? So stay tuned. It's going to be interesting no matter what. So we'll see you on the other side in a second here. Nikki, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time. As you know, this is an opera podcast. I would imagine most people in the world could name more porn stars than opera singers.
I can name more porn stars than opera singers, for God's sake.
Yes,
and I'm an
we're
opera singer.
singers. Nikki, have you in your entire life ever seen an opera?
No.
What is your perception of opera?
Yeah, that's a good question. What do you see?
Like a musical, I guess. I think it's like a musical where people sing
Yeah.
opera instead of singing.
What do you like musicals?
It's a
Do you go to
different type of
musicals?
scene.
Yeah, it's basically the
I have
same.
not gone to musicals, but I've watched musicals on, in movies, obviously.
Awesome. Cool.
So, as you know, we just did an episode recently about leaving the opera world, which is an interesting conversation, which we're really going to get into. But also an interesting journey sometimes is how people get into opera. It's very strange. It's not, like, as you said, you don't really know much about it. Most people don't have any sort of connection to opera. So how do people start singing this thing from 200 years ago? It's a weird thing. And so we talked a lot about that in our last episode, but I would like to know kind of your experience of getting into the adult film industry. Was it intentional? Was it like happenstance? How did that happen for you?
It was kind of, I don't want to say it was by accident because I intentionally sought it out. I was in a relationship with somebody that his ex was a really well-known adult actress.
Okay.
And so I kind of befriended her. And I already knew that our relationship was over, but it was a long relationship that I was having trouble getting out of.
Right.
And I knew if I did it, it'd be done.
Yeah.
So I kind of broke up for the millionth time and, found a mutual friend of hers and mine and said, hey, I want to see if I like this. And it went from there.
No, wait a minute.
It kind of worked out.
So the guy's ex-girlfriend was a porn star, right?
Right. After they broke up, obviously.
After they broke up. Oh, so he was carrying some baggage. He
Okay,
was mad about
so
that.
So you knew that
Yeah.
had you done it while you were in the relationship, then it would have ended it. So
Well, I wasn't in the relationship still, but I
Okay, I
knew that he wouldn't go back to me or I wouldn't go back to that. It was like a
Okay.
very toxic relationship.
So it
And
was like
every time I left, I would go back. It was one of those.
this was basically like a safety net. You're just cutting the cord. Once he sees this porn career blossoming, that's the end of it.
I mean, I guess that's a way to put it, but yeah, I just knew that, he was holding me back from a lot in life
Yeah.
and I couldn't get away. And it was, like I said, toxic. So I knew this was a way for me to get away.
Cool. You got to cut those relationships loose. You got to nip them in the bud.
yeah, Nikki,
Yeah.
I had read online that you started doing makeup was one of the first things you did. Is that true? Okay.
I actually was an extra.
Okay.
And I did makeup as well. I tried to do regular acting, which I obviously did not do very well in, and I was always an extra. And I was an extra a lot on porn. And
Okay.
I didn't understand why they kept picking me, and I honestly think it was because I had big boobs. But they kept picking me as an extra for porns. And I actually was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like that was more fun to me than acting. And honestly, it was a lot easier. It kind of sounds silly, but it's easier to remember or to act in a porno than it is to act in a regular movie.
Okay.
Because different.
I can feel Mike's got like a
No,
thousand questions he wants to-
the thing about it is so laying cards on the table. I've seen your videos before. I've always thought you were a very good actress. I thought
Thank
that
you.
you had acting chops. When you say, "Oh, it's not," I mean, I guess it's not like real acting. I've seen plenty of porn stars that couldn't act their way out of a paper bag. And
So have I.
it's really not it's kind of a turnoff, maybe just because you and I were also on stage doing stuff all the time. When I see somebody's bad technique at acting, it's like, come on, go do the work.
Yeah,
come back whenever you earned it.
It's like an authenticity thing.
That's
yeah.
right, authenticity.
So then, were you where were you? Like, had you gone to California then, or you were from California?
I'm from California. I was born and raised in California.
Okay.
So it was kind of like an easy transition because that's what everybody goes there for, to be an actor.
Okay.
I just did it in a different way.
So, had you gone then to auditions in California for acting things?
For normal, what
Yeah.
I call normal acting, mainstream, yes, I did. I went to a lot and I was in a few independent films and like I said, a lot of extra work or a lot of lines like, I don't know if you want me to name movies, like I was in music videos and stuff like that. So I
Okay.
did a lot of things like that that were mainstream.
I see. And
Can I ask about what?
Well, let me.
Yeah, go for it.
That was a lead into a follow-up
Okay,
question.
sorry. Go. I won't mess up your flow.
Is there any sort of then audition process then for like the porn industry? Like, is it a networking thing? Is it purely networking, or is there an audition process, and how does it compare to the audition process you know from mainstream? You know, I mean, as far as
That's a really good question,
not just the audition itself, but like the applications. Because at least when we do auditions, we have an agent. Like it's like there's a specific thing they're looking for. We show up with 20 people who look exactly like us.
A headshot with repertoire on it, like
and
all
so,
kinds of different things.
And I would imagine when you did the actress stuff, it was similar. So in the porn industry,
Yes.
then what similarities are there to that?
Well, it's similar to that. You know, a few of the people that you would audition for were not as kind or expected more in that interview or whatever you would call it. And those were the directors I avoided. And I actually lost a lot of jobs with big name companies because I wouldn't do what they wanted me to do just to get the part. And a lot of people did not like me because of that. And that was fine because I wasn't going to go against what I wanted to do just to get a part. I could have been a bigger name if I did choose to do that.
Of course.
But I was not going to go against what I felt comfortable doing.
So would you say there was a divide then in people that were like interviewing you like to actually see what you could bring to the project, and then people who were like more of then like taking advantage of the situation?
There was a lot of people that took advantage of the situations. They thought, I'm this big top movie producer that makes movies for Wicked or, Adam and Eve. You know, you want this part, all you got to do is this. And I'm like, I guess I don't want the part.
I see.
It's a little Weinstein-y. It's a little Me Too-y, you know?
Are there agents then, or how do you find these? How do you set up these interviews?
I did have an agent, and I had a really good agent in the beginning, and they had little agents inside the main agency, and there was a couple agents that really looked out for me because they knew that's how I was. And one agent was like, I know you really want to work for bigger name companies. This director kind of tries to do stuff, but stand your ground, don't do anything, and let's see if you get the part, because I think you'll get the part because he really wants you. And he did. It was like a one-on-one interview with this director, and he said, hey, and sat back in his couch chair, whatever you want to call it, and kind of was hinting that he wanted more from me than me reading lines. And I said, I'm not comfortable with doing that, but if you hire me for this, I will do that on camera with this actor, and I get to list who I will work with. Oh, okay. And I did get that part, actually.
That's an interesting
one.
It
was awkward.
I've heard that before, that it's always the female porn actress. To get in as a man, you have to have maybe 2 or 3 women who are willing to work with you. Is that right?
I'm not sure for the guys how they get in it. I don't really know too much about that. Yeah. But for girls, I don't really know if there is much standard, to be honest with you.
Okay, I mean, in the opera world,
kind of bad, but
I see. In the opera world, there's often like a team. Like you have like your coach, like your agent. You have theaters that work with your agent and your coach, and like you kind of build like a network of people that kind of create a lot of work for you. Was it similar for you? Did you have like, once you were established, did you kind of have a network of people that would hire you back just because they knew you, or were you fighting for every job?
I felt like I was fighting for a lot of jobs, but there were certain companies like Brazzers. I loved working for them. One of their directors, he was amazing. He knew how I was on and off set, and he loved my professionalism. So he constantly hired me, and he also hired me as an extra if I was in town. That was when I was living in Las Vegas. And that's where they shot a lot. And he was always like, hey, are you available? I don't have a scene today, but I have extra work. And that's how I would make money in between like working scenes, because it was just extra, but it was a lot of fun, and then it also built up the relationships that I'd have with that director and that company.
I see.
He mentioned you have like a network of people. In opera, oftentimes you have coaches or teachers who are helping you constantly improve your craft. Is there something similar like to that in porn? You don't have like a coach who's like, oh yeah, you should try this out or anything.
Well, I mean, to a follow-up
I mean,
question.
they try to get you.
Yeah.
They try to get you to try stuff out. The directors, I should say, but I don't think there's any coaches or anything like what you're.
So you have then, in that case, a huge amount of, let's call it, artistic freedom in the
Yes and
creative
no.
process of. Okay.
Yes and no. I know a lot of directors are set in their ways of like, we want it like this. I want you to do this. This is what I want. And this is, how it's going to go down. And then other directors, like I said, for Brazzers, I know I mentioned I loved that director, but he, I don't think he ever really had to explain what he wanted. And he always got like extended scenes versus the other ones that were like, I want it like this, I like this, because I would work with actors that I was comfortable with. We knew what they wanted. We'd do what they wanted, and they'd get, I think, quality work versus like this, like that. Because it's not something that should be like that.
Right.
So did you?
Should be natural.
Yeah, or like organic, especially if you have somebody that you work with often,
Right.
and you guys know each other. I mean, come on. I know you're filming it for a product, but it is still sex.
Yeah.
You're still, it's still something that requires this give and take. And if somebody wants this and the other person wants to give it to them, then I imagine that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, for me it was.
How much are you?
I felt like it was better that way.
I see. And how much are you aware of like your performance, and like how much are you like once you've started watching yourself in videos, did you then try to improve things? Did you have like a process of like, improving yourself in this, or was it more of you kind of just went to every situation and kind of organically let whatever happened?
I want to say a little bit of both.
Yeah. Okay.
There was some scenes that I had to do in the beginning I was not very comfortable with because I was still finding my own, I guess, sexuality. And it was a process for me. And I felt like the more I did it, the more comfortable I felt. So it was not so much as watching myself, but I really liked watching or looking at the pictures that I would take. Also did stills.
Yeah.
And for me, watching my hair and makeup get done, looking at the stills after I took them, that got me more into the mood, I guess, and where I felt more comfortable in just being free and comfortable in what I was doing.
That's cool. I think that's kind of similar. Nobody really likes the sound of their own voice. No. Nobody likes listening to the sound of. Yeah, you don't like the. But is it similar then? Did you feel awkward watching the videos that you would produce then, or was it like hearing your own voice?
I want to say sometimes yes, especially like if I had to really pretend I wasn't with the person I was with because I just met this person 5 minutes ago and I already did not like their personality.
How often would that happen?
A lot.
Really?
That's the whole thing. I mean,
I think in the beginning it happened a lot. But that's how it is because in the beginning you can't say, oh, I will only work with this person. Or, you have to have a list. And in the beginning I didn't have a list. So I had to, unfortunately, be with people that I was like,
Yeah, you have to.
And then I think the worst was when I worked with girls that were what they call gay for pay. So they didn't really like girls.
Oh.
I really like girls.
I see.
So when I'm working with a girl that doesn't really like girls, I feel that. And I don't like that. Uncomfortable.
You can spot phoniness from a mile away no matter what it is. And tell me this. It brings up an interesting thing. So you start a scene at the beginning you started a scene with a lot of people that you didn't know. You then realize, oh, I don't like this guy. I don't like what's going on. How common is it to just break off and say, nope, you know what? I've changed my mind. I don't want this. I don't want this situation right now. Does that happen often, or is that?
As soon as it did happen often. Most of the time, I'd finish the scene because I was a professional and I knew I just had to get through how many ever more minutes.
Yeah.
But as soon as I was done, I'd call my agent. I'd be like, put this person on my no list.
Yeah.
I'd never work with them again.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's how the lists get made, right? It's the experience and all that.
Yeah.
I assume. So then your agents, they also managed your contracts and everything then, right? They did you have to negotiate anything, or your agents took care of all that?
My agents would negotiate it all.
Okay.
I would tell them what I'm comfortable with, what I'm not comfortable with, and then we would go from there because I was one of those girls that had a big no list.
Okay.
I just was, new to the industry and I didn't want to be taken advantage of, which I saw a lot in the beginning. And I was like, oh no, that's not going to be me.
Okay.
So I had a really big list of things I would not do. And then I, here and there, they'd ask, hey, they want to know if you'd be interested in doing this. And I would think about it. And there were some things that, were on my no list that I tried. And I was like, I don't like that. I'm not doing that again. Or I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll do that again.
Okay.
So did you discover a lot of things that then later you really liked that were originally on your no list, and then it's like, oh, why was that on my no list? That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm trying to think of an example. Like orgies, those are awkward.
Sure.
But if it's a girl orgy, I didn't mind it. But if there was guys involved, I didn't like it.
Why? That's super interesting.
Because I guess because the ones I was in were kind of directed and orchestrated, and it was just awkward. And I would also be in scenes where there were people that I didn't want to be involved with.
Right.
So it would make it more of an awkward situation. So I didn't like it. And usually when you're doing with all girls, it's just more sensual, and it made me feel more comfortable.
Sure.
I see.
Interesting.
When you did these things with your agent and they negotiated the contracts, is it typical that you get paid in royalties, or is it typical that you got paid then a lump sum for your performances?
We only get paid lump sums.
So there is no royalties then in the
no
porn
royalties.
industry.
I wish.
Okay.
I think honestly, I would never have to work again.
Honestly, Nikki, I was just thinking the same thing. Some of
unfair.
your videos have like 35 million views or something like that. I mean, come
I wish
on.
I got paid $1 for every view. That would have been great.
Even pennies. I mean, gosh.
Even
pennies.
Okay.
I mean, Mia Khalifa recently famously said that she's broke after her career. Did you feel that you were being fairly paid?
No.
No.
And I complained about that all the time. And if you upped your rate, which you get a flat rate per scene, if you upped your rate, then you rarely got booked. So that was where I started to suffer. And I'm like, damn it, I have bills to pay.
So there's a
I can't wait.
Seriously.
So there's a real industry standard. Like it's like there's not a lot of room to even if you have a big name, then to negotiate like a.
Well, if you have a big name and you're more willing to do certain things, they of course would negotiate and say, hey, if you do butt stuff and do 5 scenes, we'll pay you this large amount of money. But I'm
there are
won't
some.
do that.
There are some porn stars, women porn stars, who then eventually form their own companies. What's her name? Jill Kelly. She is that her? Jill Kelly? I think that sounds right?
It might be. I'm not sure.
Can't remember, but
I know like Jenna Hayes and stuff like that did that.
Yeah.
So then where is the money going then? To the producers or the companies that produce this stuff then? Okay, I see.
Yeah, I'm assuming the producers also get just like a flat rate or a salary. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the companies, and then they sell it to other companies, and then they sell it to other companies. So it's kind of like, it's really sad how little the artists or actors, whatever you want to call us, we don't get paid very much, and we actually end up losing, and it's our name, our product.
Honestly, I'm starting to get a little pissed off thinking about this.
Well,
Pornhub is huge. Xvideos is fucking huge. They make millions and millions of dollars every year.
Are you surprised though? She's describing the opera industry. I mean, it's exactly
the same. No, it's funny though. I just the other day commented on a video from Essen, in the city of Essen, right?
Okay.
They put this beautiful video trailer out there, and 85% of the trailer were these singers singing their goddamn hearts out in costumes and sets. Everything was great. They didn't at all name one person not in the credits, not in the description underneath. Yeah. And I wrote to them. I'm like,
you wrote to them?
I wrote on the Instagram post. I'm like, you could at least put their goddamn names, because in theater, oftentimes in theater, what they do is they'll say, well, this is good exposure.
Yeah.
People will see you do this. And I'm like, well, if it's fucking exposure, why don't you put my name on it, for God's sake? Expose me if it's going to be exposure.
I see. I mean, there must be that too then in your industry too, with the exposure and all that, right?
Oh yeah, they'd also ask me to do like go to parties or host events, and they're like,
Really?
it's exposure. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not even like paying me.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
fuck that.
okay. I
Yeah.
see.
Fuck that noise. You show up, you get paid. And what I was going to say about that is the companies, these so X videos or Pornhub or something like that, they even at the top of every video, you know exactly who's in the video. It's not like they're not identifying who it is. There's no way they couldn't write a check.
Yeah.
There's no way they couldn't just say, that's Nikki Rhodes.
Yeah.
I'll bet you it wouldn't be too hard to find her address. Fuck, we found you, for God's sake. If we had a check to send you, we would, for God's sake. But, you know.
Yeah,
That's, the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that bothered me a lot. And I actually did want to start my own company to where kind of like what other girls have done, to where I could get royalties from it, and other people would get royalties. I actually wanted to do something where it was mostly female based, where not just like girl, they could do whatever scenes they wanted to do, but where they would receive money in the future for what they did.
Wow.
Not for that they did it, because I think that that's fair, because that's not something that's going to go away. Why do actors who do movies receive royalties for what they do, but as adult actors you don't? And that's not fair, because honestly we're exposing ourselves a lot more.
Of course.
Absolutely.
So then you have like zero ownership over the stuff you were in, so you really can't control where it's distributed and how. Have you ever seen yourself like in advertisements or something that you just like were not even aware of? Like, have you seen your videos show up in places that were not even discussed with you?
I haven't really looked to know.
Okay.
I probably have.
Self-control you have,
from
Nikki.
people that are like overseas, I want to say, from foreign countries, that they're like, oh, I loved your work. I'm like, how do you know my work? It's something like that probably happens. But like I said, the companies just sell it and sell it.
So like then transitioning towards like you leaving the industry, like which years were you then like active in the industry?
I know I left in 2009.
Okay.
My last thing I did was the end of 2009, and I left because I found out I was pregnant.
Okay.
I had stopped doing boy-girl work, and I had only been doing girl-girl work because I was with my now husband. And I was trying to see where that relationship was going to go. And I actually did a lot of scenes before I met him that came out to where it was at the AVN Awards. I was up for so many awards that year. And before I found out I was pregnant, I had big plans for 2010.
Okay.
So it was kind of like the higher source saying, stop what you're doing. This is another path I have for you.
Okay.
So it wasn't it was my choice. I could have gone back, but I also kind of decided that, maybe the higher source is pointing me in a different direction. And I wasn't completely happy in the industry with how I was treated. So that's another reason I stopped doing certain scenes and working for certain companies, because they were taking advantage of people. Specifically the girls. And they're like I told you earlier, they're like, oh, well, if you do this, then, you'll get paid this. But it wasn't fair. It wasn't always fair. And I know that's silly to say, but it's like, if you want me to do this, then pay me for it.
No, look, it's not at all silly to say. The numbers on these videos compared to the numbers on YouTube videos that make lots of money. I mean, those views dwarf YouTube videos, and you guys see nothing of it. It's a pretty solidly justified, fuck you from the industry. It's really bad.
So then you guys could see that.
Oh, of course.
They don't. The people in the industry that are making the money, they're like, like it's really a male-run industry, and it sucks. And I loved working for the female producers like Stormy Daniels, who worked for Wicked. I liked working for her because she knew how it was to be, on the other side of the camera. She knew, how to treat her actors, and she gave us respect, and she would say, hey, are you comfortable with this? If you're not, let's change that. So I liked working for the women in the industry versus the men in the industry, because the men just took advantage of the women.
Well, I have a question though. I mean, so you say you liked working for Stormy Daniels. Did she give you rights to videos?
No. Unfortunately, she worked for Wicked. It wasn't like her
I
company.
I see.
But then again, I did work for Jenna Hayes, and it was her company, and she didn't give me rights. So it's not always fair, I guess.
Yeah.
But I wanted to change that. Unfortunately, I just was never put into the position where I could actually put that plan into effect, where I could make it fair for girls.
So then when you left the industry, it wasn't like something you'd been thinking about for a long time. It was kind of like life presented you with a circumstance where you just decided that that was the best choice to make, right? Because you had said you had big plans for 2010, but then you decided that maybe it was time to kind of bow out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually told I couldn't have children, so I didn't honestly expect that.
Excuse me?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
no,
it was
not by the
very big
producers.
surprise.
See, I understand. I misunderstood
like
that.
medically.
Medically. I thought someone
Yes.
was like, hey, you're not allowed to
Medically.
have children. I'm like, well, fuck them. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Actually, I was told that I couldn't change a lot. I wasn't allowed to change my hair. They asked me not to get any more tattoos.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When I came to work with tattoos, they got upset with me, and I'm like, whatever,
Yeah.
it's not.
Well-
they always made me play the sweet and innocent, naive person.
Yeah, you did
I
that
kind
well.
of hated that sometimes.
Mhm.
Sometimes I didn't mind it, but sometimes they're like, it was
Well-
kind of hard. Like
well,
I
look,
was
we-
older.
We have to fucking, before we go on to retirement, we have to ask about the Fach system.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so like
It's
there's
really important.
There's voice types. They're called Fach in German, but like there's
Okay.
voice. we do like a mix out here, but there's voice types. Your soprano, your tenor, your bass, baritone. But then within each voice type, there's people who are kind of typecasted basically as like the villain. And so Mike and I, like he what do you always play?
I do like it's like a character tenor. It's like a character actor.
So usually you're like a creature.
I always tell people Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, he's
I always say Steve
Okay.
Buscemi.
And
Like,
so
imagine
and
that.
so I got stuck in villains. So like I'm always a bad guy. And so once you have so many of those on your resume, you're stuck. It's hard to.
Yes.
So in the porn industry, is there also typecasting? You're like, you are a MILF, you are a whatever. And
Yes.
then is it hard to then jump to a new genre once you're known for something? Okay.
Well, first off, you have beautiful red hair. That all of a sudden is a search word right away. I can imagine just because because of your red hair, they were like, listen, they know you by your red hair. Why would you change it, right?
Well, it wasn't so much as why would I change it, but they didn't want me to cut it. They didn't want me to color it, which I wasn't going to color it. But sometimes, I did want to cut my hair. Like I obviously have shorter hair than I always had. Another thing was they didn't want me to change is they kept wanting me to grow out my bush. Let's
Nice.
just get like that. And,
It's not the first time we've said
that's
bush on
not
this
what I
podcast.
liked. Well, that's not what I liked. So it was kind of hard. But then
Yeah.
I noticed if I did, I got booked for specific scenes. Like I was typecasted, big bush girl,
Okay.
specifically redhead, and they loved that. So yeah, I was typecasted a lot. And then when I got more tattoos, they're like, oh, well, we can't do this scene unless you cover that tattoo. And I'm like,
Oh, really? Wow.
well, I don't want to play the sweet innocent girl. I've been playing it for a couple years now. Can I move on?
Well, so then it
Yeah, right.
Can I
sounds
go
like
to
it
the
was.
college girl?
Then it sounds like it was really like assigned to you. Like you didn't really play an
Yeah.
active. It's like, I mean, that's like us. I mean, you don't choose. Like it's people get told, and after you look at the last 10 things you were hired for, you're like, well, fuck. I
It's
guess
because at the
that's
beginning.
it.
It's because at the beginning you want to work, and when somebody says we'll let you work, but this is what we want to engage you at, you're like, yes, let's do it. And then you get a couple more of those, and then you're all of a sudden, just from nature, you're just on this path now.
Okay. Yeah, it's true. So then when you left then, right? I assume you don't have to like quit a job. You just kind of stop taking calls. It's probably pretty from like the contractual side of leaving the industry. I would imagine that's not too complicated, right?
No, it wasn't too complicated. I just told my agent, I actually didn't tell my agent the real reason I was leaving. I said, I'm going to take some time off for school. He's like, thought I was crazy. He said, "Why are you doing this right now? You just had all these avian nominations. Now is not to quit. I have so many people lined up that want to book you for 2010. Please don't do this." He's like, "Can you do it in between school?" I'm like, "Oh, I didn't tell him the truth.
I see.
I did tell another agent, and he's like, "Just tell your agent the truth." And he's like, "Better it, I'll tell your agent the truth. Don't worry about it." But I did, after I had my daughter, get a lot of them asking me, "Please come back. Will you come back?" And I'm like,
Okay.
I just had a baby. I'm not, not in that mind frame right now. So I have had opportunities to go back. It's just, like I said, not the industry I want to go back into because I want it to be different.
Would you ever go back into like more of an administrative position? Like if you somehow had more of a role in controlling how people were paid, would you be willing to, or are you like completely out?
Yeah, is the idea of you starting your own production company dead, or?
No, I mean, I would go into it, if I could, that route. I also don't mind, like, I don't want to do scenes anymore, but I wouldn't mind print work. Or like I used to write for Strip LV magazine.
Okay.
And I used to do toy review. I wouldn't mind going back to that. Like I wouldn't mind going back into the industry, just not doing scenes. Like I don't want to be on camera like that anymore.
I see.
I think I've grown out of that stage, but I wouldn't mind being behind the camera, direct, or helping other girls in the industry find themselves, but also establish themselves to where they're going to be set up for, not for life, because I don't know if that's even possible, but set up to where they're not going to be at the end of their career looking back going, "Wow, I did all that and I have nothing to show for it except I'm debt free." Because that's pretty much what I had to do. I look back and I was like, well, I just paid off, all my debt that I accumulated. I fixed my teeth. I did, buy this and that, but I don't really have much to show for it. And that's sad that we work so hard for years and we in any industry, and you're like, well, what now? And that's what I kind of think where I'm at in my life. I'm like, what now? And I haven't thought about going back and trying it on this side, the camera, and being like, okay, I want to do this, because my life is just different at the moment, I guess.
Of course. So how aware are you then of the changes in the industry? Because I feel like that there has been a slight lean towards people being able to produce from home and being able to then earn kind of the whole model of the way YouTube and all these things work with monetizing video views. It seems there has been a little bit of power shifted to the performer. Do you think that that's true?
Sure,
or
with OnlyFans even also.
Yeah,
I was just thinking of OnlyFans.
These types of platforms. Yeah, but even on Pornhub or something, you're allowed to have your own account and you're allowed to kind of control your own content a little
get
more.
Tips.
Yeah. Have you noticed a change in the industry then? Has it changed since you've left, or were these things also available? Yeah, okay.
No, it's changed a lot. I feel like more sites are available like that, and that's all well and good, but I'm not sure exactly the percentage, but they pay a percentage to be on that site.
Of course. Yeah.
So of course, if they're promoting themselves well enough, like Bella Thorne, she's doing amazing. I wish that I had what she has going on right now, but if she was smart, she wouldn't be doing it for OnlyFans or on OnlyFans. She would be doing it on her website that is like OnlyFans.
I see.
And I mean, I haven't really investigated too much into it. She was just somebody that just popped into my head when you were talking about that. And I wish that I could be at her status, helping other girls, because that's what I feel like she's doing. She's helping other people find their names because she is a name. And that's a great thing that I wish was available. I don't know. Wow, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I have a question because the one thing that we discussed on the last podcast is, people when they get into opera, they have these dreams. These it's this kind of like, oh, this castle on the mountain that you got to work your way towards, this career, and there seems to be a lot of shame involved in the idea of quitting. Once you have that goal, eventually stopping. You said you had big plans for 2010. Did you feel did you feel like, oh, I shouldn't be walking away now? Did you have like guilt or shame or anything like that? Because I think a lot of opera singers deal with that whenever they feel like they give up on that dream
like
of theirs.
Quitting, the word failure gets involved with quitting a lot. Like if you didn't do it until retirement age, you failed. And it's not that way, but it can feel that way. Did you have those feelings?
That way.
Yeah, like you
I
somehow failed at the big dream of...
I failed myself, actually.
Yeah.
And then I realized who my friends were, because for years, I thought this group of people were my friends and we were all in the industry doing it together. And a couple of them are still my acquaintances on like Facebook and Instagram, but it's not what it was. I mean, now they have families of their own too, but I think for a lot of years I struggled with the failure aspect and the shame. Like, oh man, I let myself down. Like I quit on something that I was so dedicated to for many years. So it was really hard. And still, if I look back, I feel like I failed still, but I also feel like I accomplished a lot and didn't go against what I was comfortable with and what was against my beliefs. So
actually, the way you described everything so far sounds like a goddamn success. You went into it, and from the beginning you were saying, no, I'll decide. I'll decide. And you had momentum going. You had agents that were telling you, don't stop, and you're still like, nope, this is my choice. That to me, and that's what we were talking about last time, that to me is a mark of success whenever you get to say that it's time.
We define our own success,
right?
And when you define it by external things, it's not really a route to be happy. So then, at that point in your career, so you had made the choice and all that, and you were looking at transitioning back to, I guess, the real world. That's what we say when we leave opera. We have to go into the real world, because what we do is probably not exactly like what you do. Of course, it's not, but it's not that dissimilar. It's what late nights, it's other cities, it's drinking, it's partying, it's new people every 2 months. I mean,
that's true.
I think it's actually probably more wild than you would imagine. But like, I would imagine it'd be very.
Dude, you're
tame.
talking to Nikki Rhodes. It's less wild than she imagined.
It's obviously comparatively not wild. But I would imagine the lifestyle would be like minimally surprising.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, baby.
There are drugs, there are alcohol, there is sex. But when looking and like going back into the real world and entering that, did that cause you any stress? I mean, like, if I may ask, like, what age were you when you had chosen then to leave the industry and then go back into like working life and stuff like that?
28.
Okay. Yeah. That's when a lot of people then also kind of decide that the opera thing's not going to work out. 28, 32, around there. And so then you had said you were like thinking about going to school, because you also studied law at some point, didn't you?
I did do that for a couple years. I did want to be a lawyer at one point in time in my life, which I guess in a way that I failed too, but I shouldn't say I failed.
No, you chose a different
I decided
path.
It wasn't for me. I decided I don't want to be a lawyer. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but I did not want to be a lawyer. But I did eventually go back to school. I actually just graduated with my bachelor degree in October.
Oh, great.
And I got a bachelor in health and wellness. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the degree yet, but hey, I at least finished something that I started. So
congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, really though. I mean, like this concept of like failing because you just choose to do something else. It's toxic, and it exists in a lot of creative industries. This type of stuff, because people will exploit your passion for profit. And it's whether it's porn or opera or it's animation or art, it's like when you're passionate about what you do, there's an opportunity to be taken advantage of. And the people who are willing to decide for themselves and define for themselves what success is, that's really a powerful thing.
But on top of that, there's also this. So you can either define success as which big company did you work for?
Yeah.
Like, were you the top rated porn star? Were you the top tenor in what you're doing? Or in the company that you were working for, did you produce high quality art?
Yeah.
High quality, whatever your thing is, was it really at the top level? And you can do the top level stuff in middle-sized companimes.
Yeah.
There's those two, the idea of quality of art and whatever, like
Status
the
or whatever.
status are two different things. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, Nikki, you had quality material, But I mean,
Thank
you
you.
had plans. You had plans for other things, but were those plans just working for bigger companies or doing something else?
It was trying to get my name to be bigger, more of like a household name. Like I liked doing quality work. I was not on the quantity. And yes, of course I wanted to get paid, but I wanted to build my brand. And that was where I was actually like, I felt like I was failing until the AVN noms came out. And I was like, wow, they're actually seeing that I have the quality work. And I think that was where I was like, okay, they're finally seeing it. I'm going to try harder next year. And then, you know, obviously the plan derailed, but I keep saying I fail. I looked at it as a failure because I quit, but I need to stop saying that. And I was realizing it as you guys were saying it as well. That's somebody else's definition of a failure, but it's me just, oh, that wasn't, you know, where this next journey is going. This is the next journey. And same thing when you quit opera, you guys are just going to be going to your next journey. Who's to say you failed? You were successful with your opera. Now it's the next journey, and that's where you're going next.
Totally. Plenty of people like, had you asked me, I wouldn't have said no. Nikki didn't fail. That like a failure. There are failures in porn.
Well, I mean,
and you don't watch them. You don't watch them.
Well, I think it's also very easy to idealize the life that you didn't have. Like, oh, it could have been perfect.
Yes.
Right.
But in opera, there's people that are 50 years old and just burnt out, and it ruined their lives chasing this dream endlessly. And I would imagine in the porn industry, there's also people that are just used up and burnt out from just being in it for so long. And you know, you always leave a party while it's good, you know? So
Right.
And
you
it's
don't,
like,
you don't wait till the end.
yeah. So,
all right, I guess I'll go.
So, like, in a way, it's like, you always like, well, maybe I could have stayed in another 10 years or something like that. But, like, maybe it would have been good, or maybe it would have fucking wrecked you, you know? Like, you can't really say. And so, yeah, it's not this failure thing. But when
I've got, I'll let you go first.
I was just gonna ask. So in leaving this and then going back to school and raising your daughter and like kind of going to the more family stuff, were there any challenges you faced, like either internally or like externally from people or like your community? Were there any struggles that you felt like that your situation was kind of like unique and you had to then overcome?
I have struggled becoming, you know, normal again. That's a very different industry. I was constantly surrounded by, you know, drugs, alcohol, obviously sex, on and off camera. And that's like a party environment. Of course, I only drank. I never did drugs. I'm not an innocent person, so I was involved in the sex off camera, and I think that improved my relationships on camera with certain actors. But it was like one of those things where, how do you turn that off? Yeah. And obviously being thrown into motherhood can really throw that off, to be honest with you. But it was even after that, when I would be recognized on the streets. Yeah. I didn't know how to act or respond in the beginning, especially when I'm like walking with my kids. I'm like, oh yeah, I know I look familiar. You know, they're like, are you? And I'm like,
oh, you would deny it? Or would you deny it?
No, I wouldn't deny it. It would just throw me off guard.
Yeah,
so it was like one of those things where I'd have to transition to normal life, and then I'd be thrown back into it, and I'd be like, oh, how do I act? You know, like, how do I respond to this? I was always very kind whenever I was recognized or asked for an autograph, but my kids would be like, why'd they want your signature, Mom? I'm like, I don't know.
Look,
they're too young to know that stuff right now. So
that's a super interesting question. I mean, like, what you don't have. Maybe we don't talk about this. I don't know, but that's knowing that your kids that is an eventual wall that you're going to come to and you're going to cross. And I imagine you have some sort of plan for that.
Oh, I'm going to be completely honest. When it is that time, they're going to know everything. Like, I'm not going to hold anything back. Because like I've told you guys, I didn't do anything I wasn't comfortable with. I didn't do anything that I did not want to do. And that's what I want to instill upon my children. I want them, if you say no, no means no. If you don't want to do something in life, or if you change your mind about something that you are doing, let's say you're going to college for being a lawyer, and you decide, wow, I know I've been doing this for 3 years. I don't want to do this anymore. Then don't do it anymore.
Great. It's awesome.
Like, life is way too short to be stuck doing something that you don't want to do.
Hallelujah. That's exactly what we were talking about
Yeah,
on the last thing.
yeah,
If you get to
completely.
the point where you don't want to do it, then just fucking stop.
You start doing it for other people
But-
or like the expectations that you think they have of you, but really nobody gives a shit what you're doing. So just do what's best.
It's going to
for
be
you,
such a strong example for your children, though. I mean, you were in an industry. You were successful. You were moving forward in an industry that was very niche, and then you decided that's not what I want, and you quit. You know, that takes a certain amount of strength that I think the people who are right now, who are listeners, who are there, most of our listeners are either involved in classical music or opera, or they're studying it, or they're actively singing in a career. There are lots of people right now. I'm looking at you guys right now in the camera.
Okay.
There are lots of you who are thinking about this, right? And thinking, can I? Should I?
Yeah.
Take Nikki as an example. Do a reflection of what you want, and then it's, I mean, have the courage to pull that trigger.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't want to do it, life is too goddamn short. You're dead a hell of a lot longer than you're alive.
Sure.
Just fucking do it, for God's sake.
And
That's
don't care what
incredible.
other people think or say.
Yeah.
Because what are they paying your bills? You know, are they making you happy?
Right.
No.
That's great. Yeah, it's incredible how
We're
similar
being
this conversation
inspirational
was.
as fuck today.
Yeah, hey
Nikki.
man, fuck it.
This is great.
No, it's great. It's very easy to have this conversation because it's surprisingly similar.
It is surprisingly similar.
Yeah.
The guilt. Am I doing the right thing? Are people going to judge me? All this stuff is exactly the same.
Yeah, like walking away from something I invested 10 years in cultivating. Like, is that a waste of my time? Did I waste my 20s with this thing? You know,
The
like,
difference is billions
Yeah.
of people have seen Nikki.
Yeah.
And that's not that way. Not that way for us, dude.
That's the difference, right? I always ask people like because this comes up like every time I'm at a party, it's like, oh, you're an opera singer, sing something. It's like, nah, fuck you. But like we
You
talk
can't
about
do that to a porn star.
No, you can't do that. But that's not my point. My
You're a porn star.
The point I was making is that like. Man, you ask an average person on the street to name one opera singer, they can't. But everybody can name 10 porn stars, but they won't, you know?
Oh, that's something we wanted to talk about.
What?
How, you know, there's this tabooness about porn. Meanwhile, sex is something. I once heard somebody say sex is the most powerful drug because it's the only drug you can be addicted to without ever having had it.
Yeah.
Right? It's super, like, everybody's just. Your body from the age of like 10 is just consuming you with this shit, right?
Yeah.
But we're not allowed to talk about it openly. We're not allowed to be open with, oh yeah, I watch porn. That's actually something that you and I have been open with on this.
Yeah.
On this podcast, it's like, yeah, of course we watch porn. Yes. Everybody fucking watches porn. I thought that was normal, right?
Well, statistically, it's fact.
Right, it's fact. Everybody watches porn.
This stuff's thing. But no, it's interesting because you do, I mean, you do have to be careful about it, right? Because even in this interview, we've all been very tame in talking about this.
Right, she's like, I needed to grow my
bush.
bush.
But, which is hilarious.
You can say bush, it's cool.
Which is
we
hilarious
got it.
because on this show we're often extremely crude and disgusting. It's like a big part of the show. But yeah, there's this like this shame involved with it, which I think there shouldn't be. And you said that when you were involved in the industry, Nikki, that you had parties and you had all these things that you would go to, and I would imagine that it was a very, I don't want to say judgment free, but it's probably a very open environment. And then I imagine that like. You must have liked to have had that. I mean, because in the theater world, we're doing something a bit differently, but still, it's fun to be in the theater world. You can always be exactly who you are. You know, like whether you're gay, you're straight, whether you like this for sex or no sex, it doesn't matter. It's really an accepting place, and people have a fear when they leave it sometimes that they have to enter into this like more corporate stiff world where they lose that part of themselves. And do you feel like do you miss sometimes just the freeness of not having to censor yourself
question.
and censor what you're saying?
I do. I think I struggled with that for a while, and sometimes still now, because that was my life, and my life is very different. And I think that was, I don't want to say more me, but some parts of it was, and I had to tame that version coming back in the real world because the judgment of others, one, and then just how people perceive that, which is sad. It's like, just because I did porn doesn't mean I'm a slut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or I think dating was really hard for a while.
I could imagine, yeah.
Because they assumed, oh, you do it on camera, you're going to do me. And it's like, no, sorry. So that was like really a scary time. And then I also worry when I'm out, you know, if people recognize me, that they'll still think that way and take advantage of the situation if I'm kind. So it's constantly feeling like on guard and being judged.
I see.
No matter where I'm at.
In your, what was it like? This is a question I've been wanting to ask, and I've been wanting to find a way to phrase it correctly. Like when you have, I mean, if you're like my family at all, we have our family, and then we have friends that are around, and they come around and everything. Does it ever enter into your mind that, or have you ever talked about it openly with the friends of the family? That guy has probably seen my porn. That guy has seen this. He has a different level of knowledge than I do to him. Do you know what I mean? Like, is that something that's difficult to deal with?
Yes and no. I've been my husband's in the military, so we live a military lifestyle. So I experience it that way. So it's more like, oh, great, that soldier has seen me, you know. And I think it's more awkward for my husband when it's brought up, because he's like, that guy knows you.
Yeah.
And he can laugh it off, but I'm
see.
just like, oh, great. Now when we're around that person, like, how do I act? Or, you know, when we're around that person more, and then that person starts asking me awkward questions in front of other people that are like, she did what?
I see.
You know what I mean? Like, I think it's that environment.
Does that happen often, that somebody would do that? That somebody would just start talking about it and asking questions in a group of people? Is that a common occurrence?
Well, there have been a couple males that have, once they've, you know, had some liquid courage, decided that they were going to ask me the questions that they've been wanting to ask me. And I don't mind. I actually find it funny. And it doesn't make me uncomfortable. I might turn bright red, but that's just like how I am. My emotions sometimes show up on my skin because I'm so fair. But it doesn't like embarrass me to where I don't want to answer. Hopefully in a point in time where it's appropriate. Like if it's in front of my husband's command, I think that would be an inappropriate.
Major General. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, but usually, like, it happened at a military ball one time. There was one guy that was pushing the envelope, and I had to kindly walk away from the situation.
Nice. I see. Yeah, I mean, often with taboo things, if you refuse to address it, sometimes it makes it more taboo. So it's better to just be honest with that. Nikki, we don't want to take too much of your time, so I think we'll probably kind of come to closing arguments.
Sure.
You have any questions you still want to get out there?
Oh man,
I mean, I'm sure you got a million.
Hold on, let me look at
check your phone.
I need to check my phone. Oh, thanks. Now I'm getting shit from Nikki Rhodes.
He's always
for looking at my phone. God
got
damn
notes,
it.
this guy.
Shit.
No, he got his phone. He's like, I
know
all
he's
these
got
questions.
I had my
questions.
He's been writing these for days, I'm sure.
For years.
What do you got?
For
years.
No worries.
Porn stuff. Favorite roles.
Yeah.
No.
Nah, we got him.
No. Like your favorite role. Oh no, I got one.
Okay.
I got one for you.
Yeah.
You never made MILF transition. Was that on your plan?
They actually wanted me to do that once I had my daughter. They were like, come on, now you can do this, because I had always wanted to do other roles besides what I was doing. And that was what they wanted me to go back into. I just wasn't ready at that point in time. And I know I can do it at any point in time. Thankfully, I don't look my age, and I'm blessed with that. But like I said, I want to do other things. I'd rather do more print work, or, you know, even like toy reviews, written tutorials, stuff like that, or even, you know, if I can be on the other side of the camera. But they did actually want me to go back to do MILF roles.
I got to say that,
which I was excited about, but also like,
nah. You know, I got to say though, the toy review thing seems like a good idea, because I was in a sex shop not too long ago. The technology is getting out of hand.
Yeah, it's nuts.
There are
Yeah.
microprocessors in these goddamn
Yeah,
toys.
it's like smartphones. I mean, well, also there's a lot of power for you to do that yourself if you want in today's world, you know, of like Instagram and all this stuff. A follow-up question to Mike's before we're done here is, in the opera world, there's often a trajectory to your career. You know, like, so you're the hero, and then when you get old, you become like the king. You know, it's like a normal, like, and there's like exact roles and stuff we have too. Is it also in the porn world? Do people plan like a 20-year trajectory? Like, I can do it until I'm this age. And then is there like a standard retirement age? Because you said earlier when you left, you feel like maybe you failed because you got out too early. So what is the expectation? How long do you stay in it until it's like, okay, she had a well-rounded career? You know?
I don't know. I don't think there's a real standard
No?
because I
Okay.
saw some people in it that I was like, oh, wow, you're still doing it at your age.
Right.
And that was back when I was in my 20s. I was like, wow, you're 40
'cause-
something. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
back then it was a lot different. I don't know how people feel about it now. I was one of those people that was against plastic surgery. So even if I did stay in it and age with it, I wasn't going to be one of those women like, you're going to get what you get when I age.
That's
Yeah.
I'm not
good.
gonna get my boobs pushed up to here just
Right.
because you want me to be a MILF with
Yeah.
basket-
No, people have to
Basketball.
people have to be allowed to age. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Nikki, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Honestly.
It's funny how similar this conversation is to the one Mike and I had about leaving opera. It's performing this thing that a lot of people don't understand, and then it's leaving it behind and missing that life and moving on to other things. It's incredible the similarities there, and we really wanted to do this because it's two worlds that don't necessarily in the open come into contact, you know, like
Right.
but like they're actually very similar. We're doing the same things as entertainers. So hopefully someday we can start our own podcast. Because I could do 100 hours of this. This was really entertaining
This
talking
was
to you.
great.
But Nikki, thank you so much for taking the time, and we wish you all the best with what the future brings for you. So thanks so much.
Thank you. I wish you guys the best in what your endeavors are next.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you.